it's very important to understand that in the beginning of this process, when you first hear about the truth, when you first hear about your true nature, that your true nature is awareness itself, and you first hear that it's possible for you to get free from suffering, you first hear it's possible for you to get free from the life you've been living as a character that's living life in a world that's being given by your thoughts and feelings and your past experiences. It's possible for you to get free from that and begin to experience a life of freedom, a life of happiness, a life of peace, and a life of contentment. But as my friend Mooji says, this isn't freedom for you, this is freedom from you. So what's in the way of your happiness? You are. And the you that I'm saying is in the way of your happiness is the one you take yourself to be every day. The one that's talking to you in your head, the voice in your head. You know, you take yourself to be that voice. And so through meditation, you come to see clearly, directly for yourself that voice is not you, that this body is not what you really are, and that the personality that you take yourself to be, the separate self that you take yourself to be, is nothing other than an illusion that keeps getting generated by the thinking and the past experience and the material that goes on in your mind. That's generating the idea that you are the character that you believe yourself to be. If you were to have a serious head injury, a brain injury, and you lost your memory, then you wouldn't know who you were. So how real can the identity that you take yourself to be if it can disappear like that if you have a brain injury and you don't know who you are? How real is that? And even if you had a brain injury and you didn't know who you were, you would still be aware. So then the question would be, well, who are you now without the personality? If you did have a brain injury and you lost your personality, but you're still here and you're still aware, who are you? Who are you? Maybe that identity is real. Maybe that's the real identity, the one without the personality. And maybe if you're being that identity, if you're being that awareness in your everyday life, you may start to experience a life worth living. You may start to experience a life worth living. Yeah, I think it was Plato or Socrates that said, an unexamined life is not worth living. An examined life gives you the opportunity to begin to understand that if you want a life worth living, then you're going to have to wake up. You're going to have to come out of the dream you've been dreaming. You're going to have to wake up and start being aware of things as they actually are instead of the way you think about them. Thinking is an interpretation process. It takes what's happening, processes it through your previous conditioning, and then produces thoughts about it. And then you believe the thoughts are reality. And if you believe the thoughts are reality, you're living in a very small world. And if you believe the thoughts are reality, you're living in a world where there's going to be a lot of suffering. Because the voice in your head is reacting all the time, isn't it? Isn't the voice in your head reacting all the time? You know, if you start paying attention to that voice, I think it was one of the teachers said, if that voice was actually another person that was with you all the time, you'd do whatever you could to get rid of them. You'd do whatever you could to get rid of them. And if you take that voice to be you, then you would do whatever you could to get rid of yourself. And that would be a good idea, given that that self that you take yourself to be is neurotic and crazy. And that's why it's talking to you the way it talks to you about yourself and everybody else and about life. So if you don't want to live in that world, if you don't want to live in the world that's being generated by thinking and feeling and remembering, if you don't want to live in that world, and you want to live in the real world, the one that's actually happening right now, that's not being processed, through your past, then you have to wake up. And the way to wake up is to practice meditation. You've been practicing who you take yourself to be for as many years as you've been alive. You've been practicing that every day. That's why your brain thinks that's who you are. Your brain doesn't know. It just takes what you put into it. Garbage in, garbage out. They used to say that, right, about computer programming, right? So if you tell your brain that you're the body, and if you tell your brain you're your name and you're the personality that your parents told you were when you were a little child and you didn't know any better, If you tell your brain that, your brain says, okay, that's who you're going to be now. We're going to be that now in the world. It's not that that's true. It's just that that's what your brain was given to operate with. Okay? And by the way, that was necessary. It wasn't a mistake. It was necessary. You can't live a human life and be in the time and space world that we're sharing with one another without taking yourself to be a body and a personality. That's part of the setup here, right? We've got to be separate selves so we can experience a human life on a planet with a bunch of other separate selves. That's called the human life, right? But if that's the limit that we live within, we will never experience what's possible. We will never experience the truth. And so through meditation, what are we doing? We're moving our attention away from this mental activity, and we're focusing it on the belly moving as the body's breathing. And when we focus it there, we are now exposing ourselves to the truth of what we are, because the awareness that's aware of the body breathing is real. It's not the conceptual understanding that you have of yourself that's in your mind. The awareness that you are, that's aware of the body breathing when you're practicing meditation, is real. It's alive. And when you go to experience that, it doesn't last very long before a thought occurs and pulls your attention back to thinking, well, why does that happen? It happens because part of the design of the program that's in your brain and your mind playing is that if you stop paying attention to the thought process and all the activity there, you'll die. Because it's generating an identity when you're in your mind. When you're in your mind and you're listening to the thinking, you're participating in all the activity that goes on there, it's generating the idea that you're the character that it tells you are there. And that's not real. It's a self-concept. That's not real. So as long as you're identified with that, you cannot be happy, you cannot be peaceful, and you cannot be content. Why? Because the self-concept that you take yourself to be is not real. It cannot experience anything. It cannot feel anything. It cannot see anything. It cannot hear anything. So the feelings and the sights and the hearing that you're having are the awareness. And what we do is we put in front of that awareness the personality that we take ourselves to be, and we believe we're that. That's why I said, right, this is not freedom for you, it's freedom from this you. And through the practice of meditation, we start to have an experience that is without that. And when you have the experience that's without that, you're experiencing the truth. You're experiencing your true nature. And this is why you have to do the meditation every single day, because you have to practice being what you really are, so you're unpracticing being what you thought you were that isn't who you really are. You have to practice it. And as you practice it, what will happen is the mind will calm down, the body will relax. And as that's happening, and you're paying attention to the awareness of the body breathing, gradually what was in the way will stop being in the way, and you'll start to see life as it is. You'll start to see reality as it is. You'll start to experience your true nature as awareness itself. And when that experience starts to come online, you'll start to experience a kind of happiness that doesn't require doing anything. It's spontaneous. It's just that way. The way you are when you're experiencing your true nature is just happy. Why? Because you're happy to be what you are and exist. That's the bottom line. When you're in the form of the personality, that happiness isn't there. And so you're pursuing it. You're pursuing it like most other people pursue happiness, which is to get more money to buy more shit. That's how you're pursuing it, isn't it? Yeah, you think if you get what you want, you'll be happy. And every time you get what you want, you think you're happy for a little bit of time. That's called gratification. Then that wears off, and now you're back looking to see, okay, now what? What's next, right? That's why we're interested in the future, because if we're interested in the future, we can look forward to being happy. I'm not happy now, but Christmas is coming. I'm not happy now, but my birthday's coming. I'm not happy now, but payday's coming. I'm not happy now, but the end of the week's coming. You see how it works? You know the truth. You know that you're not actually experiencing happiness, well-being, and satisfaction. And you don't know what the hell to do about it, and so you just figure, I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, which is looking forward to it, trying to figure it out, trying to get more of what I want, less of what I don't. And that'll go on until the body drops. So if you want to get out of that mess, you have to practice getting out of it by paying attention to reality instead of what's going on in your mind. And you have to do that every single day without fail. If you do that every single day without fail, you will be entering the kingdom of heaven. This very world that looks as crazy and shitty, as neurotic as it appears, will turn out to be wonderful. Wonderful, beautiful and wonderful. Because you're seeing it through the eyes of the self. You're seeing it through the eyes of your true nature instead of seeing it through the conditioning that has prepared you to deal with it as if it's threatening all the time. Yeah, when you see things like the murderous behavior that human beings perpetuate on each other, when you see things like war, and when you see things like these school shootings and all that stuff, from an awake standpoint, that you experience that with great compassion, because you now understand what's going on. You now understand that the reason that's happening is because these people are lost souls. These people don't know the truth. They don't know who they are. They're relating to each other as if they're different from one another. They're relating to each other as if they're under threat by other human beings. This is a bad dream that most human beings are having. And when they're in that dream, it makes sense to kill other human beings, because those other human beings will kill you. Die or, either kill or be killed. Either that, or some people get so frustrated and so depressed and so desperate about the circumstances of their life and the condition they're in that they can't take it anymore, right? And when they get to that point, they want to end their life. They want to kill the body to end their life so that they can escape from the suffering. It's not whether it's acceptable or not. It's just what's going on. And you're seeing it from the lens of the truth. You're seeing it with your eyes open. You're seeing people as suffering, desperately suffering, and getting in such a dire state of despair, and in such a dire state of being misidentified, that's where they're at. That's where their behavior is coming from, and it's just sad. It's just sad. So, if you're awake, you experience sadness for the condition that humanity's in, but even that doesn't deter you from experiencing your ability to be happy and satisfied. If you look at the Dalai Lama, right? Is he going around crying and moping and, depressed all day? He's an awake human being. He's aware of the condition of humanity on this planet. And he experiences great compassion for that, and experiences great sadness about that. But none of that is enough to stop him from experiencing the possibility. And he understands that if he doesn't show the world the possibility, if he doesn't smile in the face of all this, if he doesn't show that he can laugh and be happy because he's experiencing a world that's not available to most people, because most people are living in their head. I want to be clear with you that what I'm talking about here is available to every single human being. And it's not something that's going to happen. You're not going to become what you are. You're not going to become the awareness that is your true nature. You already are. You already are. So all that we're doing through meditation is relaxing the body, calming the mind, and getting our attention out of the constant mental activity so you can see what you already are, so you can start to experience what you already are. This is good. In the beginning, when you first learn about these things, it'll occur to you as a personality that that's not what you are, so you're going to have to change. You're going to have to be different. You're going to have to get better. You're going to have to practice. But the reality of it is you already are what you already are. You already are the awareness that is your true nature. And most human beings have an experience of that from time to time in their life, right? Sometimes it happens when something happens that is so intense and so overwhelming that you just can't deal with it at all, and you have a breakdown. And then when you have that breakdown, you have a breakthrough, and you see the truth. That happens that way sometimes for people. but it's available at all times. So you can begin to practice meditation and learn about these teachings, right? And when you put the two together, right? When you put the two together, so now you have an idea about what you're doing, right? You're not going to try and change. You're going to just allow yourself to relax. When you put the teachings together with the practice, they're two wings on a bird, and now the bird can fly. And the teachings help to motivate you. The teachings help to tell you that this is real and this is available and you can have this. And it's available at all times. And because that's the case, it can happen at any time. You know, look at Eckhart Tolle, right? He didn't know squat about these things and he was so depressed he was about to kill himself, right? And just before he was about to take the action of killing himself, he had the idea that I can't live with myself anymore. He tells this story. He had the idea, the voice in his head said, I can't live with myself anymore. And then he said, wait a minute, there's not two of me. Who's the one that can't live with me and who's the one that can't live with that self? There can't be. And when he realized there wasn't two, he woke up. Spontaneous awakening, right? So you can wake up anytime. You could fall and hit your head and wake up, right? But you can't count on that, right? And so because you can't count on that, you have to trust the teaching, and you have to trust the teacher, and you have to trust the practice, and you have to do it every single day like brush your teeth. And if you do this, if you make a commitment to this, and you do this every single day without fail, you're on the path. See, if you get what this is, I can tell you right now how you can tell whether you get what this is. If you get what this is, there is nothing more important than this in your life, because I am telling you, without this practice and these teachings, you will not get to experience being happy. You will not get to experience peace. You will not get to experience being content. It's not possible for a self-concept to be happy. How hard is that to get? It's not possible for a concept to be happy. A concept's not real. A concept's not awake. A concept's not alive. But what you are as awareness is real, is awake, and is alive all the time and never changes. It's always satisfied, it's always stable, it's always happy, it's always content. And when you do this practice consistently over time and study these teachings, eventually that window will open. Eventually that door will open and you will start to realize that you've been home all along. You've been who you really are all along. And once you get that taste, once you realize that that's available to you, then the practice becomes easy because you want that more than you want anything else in your life. And the only way you're going to have that is to start to learn to live your life outside of your head. The life in your head is a very small situation. It's a very small life. If you want to live an unlimited life, if you want to experience open intelligence and not be limited by what you've learned, you can access the experience of your true nature. And when you're being what you really are as awareness itself, you have access to wisdom. You have access to unlimited knowledge. You begin to be able to notice that you're getting downloads, you know. Once you start to wake up and your mind is open instead of limited and closed, you start to get downloads. You start to have realizations, you know. You start to have experiences of having wisdom, and it's not coming from your past. You just know it. You just have this spontaneous experience of knowing things about yourself and about life. And you can start to live your life in a way that's satisfying. But it's only available if you practice meditation consistently. And so I really suggest to you guys who are here in this room right now to come to this class on a regular basis, because you need to hear this consistently. You need to hear this and understand what this is so that you can make the kind of commitment to it necessary to get the experience that it makes available to you.